right, welcome. Your chart is definitely not an easy one. And I've been very busy, so I had to wait for the correct time. Well, actually, I hit start recording several times, so um, yeah, just with that much 12th house, you always have to kind of, if you know you're in for something. But anyways, so very interesting. The sun is very close to rising. I mean, it is rising. It's 2 degrees from the ascendant. So that is a very prominent position of the sun, meaning that you were born right at sunrise. So very auspicious. Um, it gives a lot of good fortune, a lot of presence. Um, and someone who could, even potentially be well known or, um, make a large mark on the world in whatever way they are existing. So having the Capricorn Sun conjunct Saturn, um, you're born 1990, same year as me, so it's very likely that in the last few years, and it's, yeah, Saturn opposite Moon too, right? Because you were born on um a full moon right before the full, yeah, on a Cancer full moon. So that's very karmic also. So on that full moon, it was Saturn conjunct Sun, and since it rules the Sun, it could create someone. Now, this is where it gets a little bit tricky, and we definitely need to use the follow up to know, because it's like on the edge of the first and 12th. Now, because the ruler of the sun, the ruler of the sun in the 12th, typically that would create someone who would spend a lot of time alone. And when you add the Cancer moon, you would say similarly. Um, Now, interesting also is that you have, so when you're born with the Cancer Capricorn axis emphasized, it's a big deal. And karmically, there's a lot there around your masculine, your feminine energies. So from a karmic perspective, it's not uncommon to, for me to tell people with these types of alignments that you may have been the opposite gender and your recent incarnation or incarnations. Obviously, there's no way to check that, but people have given me their feedback and been like, yeah, I've always felt that way or something like that. Not necessarily in like a trans type of way, where you feel like you're the wrong gender in this lifetime, but maybe identifying it depends for everyone. But it definitely does bring up a lot karmically, because this axis is very concerned with family and dharma, and it can be very easy for the energy to get stuck. So yeah, first 29 and a half years with Saturn conjunct Sun and opposite Moon could have been really tricky. Most likely on the emotional level, having Moon and Cancer in the sixth house is difficult because, I mean, it's a beautiful Moon placement, don't get me wrong, but just having, and I'm gonna I'm gonna heat some water. You can still hear me. I tend to sometimes stand up during readings, and sometimes I need to move around and stuff. I think better when I'm moving also, but don't mind it. But yeah, to have a Saturn encumbering the chart, to me, is usually, I don't really like to go down the father mother route, because I've seen how misleading it can be, in the sense that I've done charts where you think it's the father that's the person, and it's not, it's the mother. So with that said, it's a very tough energy to deal with. and usually takes some time to grow into it, right? So a lot of people with that type of connection, especially because of the 12th house nature, it could be that the Saturn return is this massive, release of the pressure valve, right? Um, and with the moon in the sixth, I always say that a sixth house moon is difficult and it's conjunct Chiron too. So, um, let's see, first house. Yeah. So yeah, it wouldn't be, it's usually the case that, one with that placement, that could actually be around mother issues. And I was just making a video that yesterday I released it as a short on YouTube about how not that how hold on. About how sun opposite or square, usually square, um moon a lot of times leads to divorced parents, or parents either divorce. And I've seen it. Someone was talking about it, so this isn't my take. Because I have Sun Square Moon. My mom, and my dad were divorced a long time ago, right? My brother, my only sibling, he has Sun opposite Moon, right? So, and I've seen it so many times. So I've also seen it where they're still together. But I say, let me guess that the overall message, like if you had to boil, like I have a book called Pisces Live Nine Lives on it, any Amazon if you're interested. But basically, there's one chapter. It's not really about me, but there's parts where obviously I'm talking about some of my experiences and stuff. Water, but there's a part where I boil down my what I learned from my mom, my dad, or like what I took from each of them. Even though like I'm very much black sheep, like very independent, kind of doing my own thing, not really what I mean? Like not really influenced so much, but it's very like even for someone like me who is very individualistic, um, you still have a massive influence. It's undeniable, right? No matter what you say, if you actually sit down and write about it, you'll see like the overall themes of the message from each parents and how they have kind of worked their way into your life. So yeah, I find that with sun opposite moon, it can be this feeling that you have this Capricorn, which is a more masculine energy, and Cancer, which is a more feminine energy. And I've seen it be a big trouble. My brother actually has the same thing as you, but opposite. So you have it in the order that you would want, because you would want to have the moon in Cancer and the sun in Capricorn, or and yeah. But anyways, I've seen it in different charts how having that sun moon opposition can lead to this feeling of um you know really expressing one of the energies and not as much the other, and then looking for the other in partnerships, relationships, or I guess like very close friendships as well, but more usually it's more relationships. So with that said, back to what I was saying about the moon in Cancer. So the moon is in dignity in Cancer, meaning that the goals of the moon, it's your emotions, it's how you feel safe, it's how you feel secure. So we need to look at the moon sign to understand what it takes, right? So for you as a Cancer moon, there's a sense of deep sensitivity. Now, why would it be difficult to have that opposite Saturn and with all the Capricorn rising and sun? And I've talked about this extensively. This idea is that basically it's like an egg, where it's like the outside of the egg is the shell, it's the ascendant, it's the how people see you. The sun is the white, it's the essence of who you are, your identity. The moon, people don't see that until they get to really know you. So um quite literally, Capricorn you could be looked at as a hard shell, a Cap rising. Oftentimes they are, in my experience, like very attractive, especially they tend to age very well. If I would say, like, especially when they do, like I've seen this interesting thing with Cap energy, like where and just in general, where especially when they do a lot of the inner work. But yeah, anything Saturnian, it's almost like you get blessed in after the Saturn return. Um, but yeah, like life always gets better with a chart like this. In my experience. But yeah, so anyways, so yeah, the Cancer moon, it feels a lot, but it can be in contrast to the Capricorn energies because these energies are more like Capricorn is more of a boss energy, more of an energy of like I can do it on my own. I'm the responsible one. I'm the one that, can be counted on, etc. Right? So it can be difficult because that Cancer moon needed so much nurturing when young, but because Chiron is conjuncted, it's very likely that you were made to believe um that expressing emotions or that you were too sensitive or that that expressing emotions in a way was not, like there's something wrong with the way you did it or you were too sensitive, kind of gaslighting in that sense, or just difficulty based on, a Cancer moon needs more nurturing early on than other moon placements, right? And if they don't get it, if they have parents that are, that are battling with each other, and I say divorce, but it could just be like a very different energy, like of parent that's one that's very different than the other. And then of course with the 12th house Saturn in Sun oftentimes is an absent father, metaphoric or physical. So it wouldn't be too surprising if that was the case. But learning to integrate to balance out Cancer and Capricorn is one of the big missions here. Um, and yeah, but anyways, so the sixth house moon, so on top of the Chiron, which could be the mother wound as well, but which could represent someone who's a great healer, but kind of life their early family life puts them in this position, which there could also be some mental health issues here. I would not be surprised at all. Depression, not doesn't necessarily have to be chronic, but because the sixth house, it is things that we can do. Like with our routines, we can save these, right? We can change these. But especially the first 30, there can be a big feeling of being misunderstood and yeah. So yeah, and then also, um, a sixth house moon is someone who, on a daily basis, is feeling their emotions a lot, especially in Cancer. One could say the most sensitive moon sign. So you're super. So you're coming off in this way where people look at you and they think, oh, like she's got this, right? She's got it. She doesn't have to worry. Like we don't have to worry about her. But then the Cancer moon is like, so I wouldn't be surprised if you had to really grow up very, very fast also. Am I not sharing this? Oops. Okay, I thought I was sharing it. Yeah, so there you go. Actually, hold on. Mm, 1 second. But yeah, so that's definitely something. And hold on. Yeah, so yeah, so I mean it's just difficult like when you just think about the big three like that, right? Where it's like, okay, and then when people get to know you better, they see that very deep sensitive side. But with the opposition of Moon to Saturn and Saturn being on the Sun, it would definitely add a lot. usually add a lot of difficulties with vulnerability, a lot of emotional restrictions. Like I said, potential for depression, for low self-confidence, for not seeing the self clearly, especially with all that 12th house and issues around identity, especially with Pisces ruling the second and Neptune in the 12th, right? So it could just really be a very mystical person, very mystical, very but someone who needs to, find a way to identify themselves and be a part of the community in this lifetime, right? And really learn, and like I said, the sun rising is a very strong energy. Capricorn rising is a very strong energy. So, I've seen people with this like really grow into these charts where they, especially with Pluto on your exactly on your midheaven, like you're a world changer. Like it's a big, 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 big one. Um, so there's this massive energy around your, I don't like to call it your career, but your dharma. And one thing that's come to me is the idea of being misunderstood and how to deal with that. And it's in many ways, but also coming across as very intense and people not, and the question becomes like, how can I show this more soft side of myself? But part of it is in that, um, that process of getting to know that version of yourself, which you could be, who knows where you're at with that. Now, this is very fascinating because it reminds me of a chart of a friend slash client, and she actually had this very similar to you, but different. I think, yeah, different Virgo and Capricorn, but Saturn, making hard aspects to Sun and Moon. But like you, she had Jupiter conjunct Moon. So when I spoke with her after, I told her like, this is a game changer for you. And it's still it's around 7 degrees away, so it's not like a tight conjunction, but it definitely is there. Jupiter is a massive planet, massive orb, and this what I would say is that it would give you a lot. It would actually really really help on the mental health level first of all, and on the level of having really really healthy routines or being beneficial in that respect because like you do need to have routines um that allow, for example, like journaling or like not therapy is a routine but just anything where you're able to get that cancer energy out. Now what I was going to say though, the conjunction of Moon and Jupiter is beautiful. And talking to my friend slash client after I did the recording, she was like, "You're so right. Like I never realized how important that conjunction was because it's almost like you could have all this difficulty right surrounding you, but then you're able to see it. You're able to have a lot of perspective on it, right? Um, and yeah, it's in Cancer, so it's a very beautiful placement of Jupiter, and you're able to expand in this manner where you're able to meet your own needs. It helps in that sense, right? It helps in that emotional understanding of the world and of other people and of the motives behind, okay, why this difficult thing, for example, was this way, why was it this way, so that's really promising. And it tends to make someone just an optimist. Even if things are going very bad, they can dig into this well of optimism and you know and be okay. And just know like even if things are screwed up, like it's gonna be all right. So yeah, but definitely mental health is coming to me a lot. I mean, we look at the moon and what it's doing. It's opposite Mercury, opposite Saturn, opposite Neptune, opposite Uranus. So it's really and the sun. So there's a lot, I mean, a very difficult diff, like like this is one of the tougher aspected moons I've seen. And you add the conjunction of Chiron, and so Jupiter is like the one real saver, but then you have one, two, three, four, five, six difficult ones, right? So, and yeah, you have, your moon trining your Pluto, which is nice because it can definitely give some deep determination, but it's not as strong of an energy. But yeah, it can definitely that and Jupiter. So you have two, you have nearly every planet, you have every outer planet and nearly every planet aspecting the moon. Wow. So if you think about the moon in Cancer and the goal is to have comfort, the goal is to, like think about like your home, right? Like that internal home within yourself, like a burning, I don't know, like a very comfortable image. I don't know, like a fireplace burning with like, very like cozy cabin energy. I don't know, with rain coming down, whatever it is for you. The difficult aspects of the moon bring up difficulties around that. Now, when we look at so yeah, so a lot of these, I need to see if you wrote any notes, but I usually like wait a little bit. We got Esme right here also, just in case you're wondering. Give a little update on Esme. Esme, oh, say hi. Are you gonna come help? You can come help, Esme. Okay, she said give me a little bit of time while you're waking me up. So, anyways, yeah, I mean it's interesting, right? To have, and this is like what I've seen with this type of combination, anyways, is one of the best pieces of advice I can give is that this is a very karmic chart, right? Especially the 12th house and the sixth house are the two most karmic houses in my view. I mean, you add like that all the water houses, but 6 and 12, right? So there's so much around like themes around service, themes around and we'll look at the South Node and North Node, the ruler, Leo, you have what I have, yeah. So, the ruler of the South, and you have a square Pluto like me as well. So, you've come in this lifetime with a lot of past life trauma, which, maybe make it difficult for you to trust in this lifetime, especially in relationships. And they could also have an equal effect on, the idea of you putting yourself out there. But, one thing you're really supposed to do is um is go towards individualism, right? That go towards the that process of going your own direction in life. And and then when you're like, and this is some of the issue with the Cancer Capricorn axis. Sometimes they can care, like people who have that can care too much about what other people think of them, right? But you do have Uranus, you have Mars and Sag, nice. Venus in Aquarius, and your North Node in Aquarius, it's all in the first. So there's definitely an element of wanting to do things right. Now, I really think a lot about love is very interesting because it's seventh house South Node, descendant ruled by Cancer ruled by the Moon, conjunct Chiron is sixth. So there's just a lot of karma around that. And then the Venus is of course retrograde, right? And the moon's in Cancer ruling it. So it is kind of that split energy where, you might have this tendency to allow relationships to kind of be your worst enemy in a way. So it's not, I would never tell someone like you're not meant to have relationships in this lifetime, but they are a big area of learning for you. And like it is tough because Venus retrograde people, they can, you know, they can really want that love, more than anyone else, right? It can be one of the areas, right? That one of the ways it works. I'll go into it later. But it's in Aquarius. So it really is this split between, wanting that very deep, close nurturing and then wanting something that's more giving you space. I also have Venus in Aquarius, so I know like something that's giving you space, something that's giving, where you're feeling yourself, right? And you're like a lot of people with these types of placements, yeah, they can go back and forth, and um it's really about finding the right mix, right? Because obviously you need someone to match your emotional needs and to really get you in it. Like I said, it could definitely take you. I feel like I would guess that you've done, not because you're messed up or anything, but just usually people with these charts, they've done a lot of work on themselves. But sometimes there can be that feeling of like it's never enough, you know? Like I always have to do like I have to do more and more to be ready for a relationship. There can be like a perfectionism around relationships, but really it's like the goal with the North Node Aquarius is like, for you to be happy with who you are. And it's like, yeah, every single human could always improve. But that doesn't mean that, we have to be in a certain place for a relationship to be able to be successful for us, right? So, let's see here. As I was saying, yeah, so the Capricorn can definitely like I didn't say this at this. I think I skipped over this at the start, but I always tell people with these types of charts to not let the first 30 years encumber them and get in their way um, for the time after Saturn return, because it's very easy to take to create a lot of shame, to take on a lot of shame, right? And especially when the moon is opposite Neptune, right? There can be this element of taking on the shame, whether it's from the mother, um, just in general. So taking on negative emotions that aren't yours, that were always going to happen, right? Like it was always gonna come to you because of the hard aspects here. So it's like as you gain awareness, you gain the ability to, and that's part of the purpose is with each awareness, learning to let go and learning to not and to do resets every day and to not allow these parts of you to get in the way, right? To not allow these things that happen, like yes, they happen, and we're not repressing them, but um, you know, we move on, right? We can kind of cut life in hell, not half, but and like first 30 years are very ruled by fate for you, for most people, but especially for this. So, you know, if that's the case, then you have a lot more free will right now, and with awareness comes free will, right? Anyways, so we'll get back to that, but overall, it does come down to how can I look at my lifetime now and understand that any fears I might have around putting myself out there on like a big, big high level might come from past lives where I was banished for doing that. But also the same can be said with, trusting, whether it's, business partner, and usually it's relationships, but it could be business partners, right? It can be tough in that way, or partners, where you're working one on one with someone for a shared goal. Um, Best friends too, like BFF level. So moving into Aquarius, it's like moving away from the ego, and especially ego fueled relationships, and moving towards a more centered relationship for yourself. But there could be a lot of frustration here because there could be that feeling of like I need a relationship to complete me, which comes from that South Node in the seventh and then Venus retrograde in the first. But um, that's not how it is, right? It's the karma, and it really is about when one is happy alone, as we know, and willing to be alone, and for a lot of North Node in the first house people, I always say it's not that you're meant to be single forever, whatever like that. Maybe you're not, right? But it's about to have relationships that foster, obviously, like I said, that meet that Cancer moon emotional needs. But it's going to take longer for you with a Saturnian chart to have these things work, usually, right? And in my experience, I can only speak from my experience. But um, the ideal relationship, you wouldn't be like that, like two, like extremely close two souls becoming, like becoming one, not saying there's no twin flame and there's no soulmate. I'm saying you would still be able to keep your own life and your own identity, and be growing in your own way while still in a relationship. So like for a lot of Venus and Aquarius, it works better for us to, for example, live in a different place than our partner, or sleep in a different bedroom if we're living together, or have a more unconventional relationship style. And yeah, what we value tends to be way different too. We tend to go after, be very interested in people who people, other people wouldn't expect us to be into. But yeah, back to what I was saying. So the moon already in the sixth house. This is probably one of the more difficult examples of mental health. And so like I just want to validate anything you've overcome is incredible, right? Um, hold on, right? Because like I don't know you, I don't know anything about you. I need to go check my email to see. Oh, no, no, no. I need to see if you sent me any notes. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Oh, I see what I did. But yeah, having that many oppositions to the moon from the 12th especially, so let's see what you have. Okay, so you didn't write anything, but let me check my notes because I may have said to check. I may have written to check the Instagram convo. No? Okay, cool. So yeah, so I think I mean if we start with the most pressing one, it's moon opposite Neptune, right? And this one can be very difficult because like you as a Cancer moon, right, you see the potential people have, right? And it kind of mixes well with the mixes with the Venus and Aquarius where it's like being drawn to very unusual people. It could be very artistic and whatnot, but I feel like there's a certain flow also in terms of who you're attracted to. Even though your Venus sign is fixed, I think like having the fifth and yeah. But anyway, so what can happen? It's like the energetic sponge, which you are, right? And especially, having Mercury retrograde too, right? So you have Mercury and Venus retrograde. Um, there's a lot around, so a lot of like your energy is around the self and the identity, the self, and like how you value yourself, how you love yourself, and the messages that you tell yourself in your head unconsciously, a lot of that has been passed into this incarnation for you to deal with. And it's been made more evident, right? So that's why, like, yeah, like back to the idea of like psychotherapy, which is just an idea. There's so many other ways around it. But that type of kind of going deep within the self is so important. And ultimately, I think that the fact that the ruler of the North Node or of the midheaven is right on the midheaven is a huge indicator of someone who has a massive role to play in this lifetime. Um, and being that Scorpio, Pluto, Scorpio, it could be around something very detective-y, or it could be something very psychological. When I turn some lights on, or more lights on. It's just annoying because these ones are so bright, and I usually turn these ones on, but they're a little bit messed up, or not a little bit messed up. They're dead. Um, so let's see. So yeah, what was I saying? So yeah, what can happen is like the over idealization of other people and also of the childhood of the upbringing. So it can be very difficult. There could be this energy where it's like you might um it might be difficult to see things clearly, see things like I've a lot of times like also I see Neptune 2 has this where it's like you know it can be a defense mechanism to instead of like looking at the reality of how things may have been and how things may have affected you, which you could have siblings, right? I've seen this a lot where it's like one of the siblings, the same things happen to each sibling, but one based on their chart handled it a lot. It was a lot easier for them than the other one, right? Like I'm not going to get too personal about my life, so I'm not going to say what I was going to say, but it is something that's close to home, right? So, basically like there like with Mercury involved too, it's like there can be this very this theme of of losing the sense of self, especially when surrounded by a lot of people, which makes the import it raises the importance of having the right people close to you, and understanding that you're very artistic, right? You're very abstract minded, and you're very intelligent in being able to combine the more logical type of intelligence with the right brain with the left brain, logic with the more abstract, intuitive type of thinking, right? Um, so basically, like when you think about Capricorn, it's about the foundations, right? And when Saturn's blocking the moon, um, it creates this sort of stuckness around. It's like the moon likes to be water. Like I just imagine water flowing through you, and just imagine these solidified parts like with rock, Saturn's rock, that just like stops the water flow. And it's like you have to find a way to alchemize that and to um yeah, break down these stuck emotional patterns, right? That's like the big thing. And a lot of those come from potentially, the family and the childhood, but also a lot of it's from past life, right? But recognizing your own spiritual potential is a big element with that, right? And coming like it's very common to have a low self-esteem um early on in life especially. So you know, losing that sense, and kind of like I don't know, either like idolizing someone that doesn't need to be idolized, thinking someone else has all the answers. So yeah, who you surround yourself with is extremely important. Now, um, there's like when we talk about the psychology of it, right? Um, with the Mercury, there can just be a lot of misunderstandings. It's just like it's a very artistic thing, like I said, but it's like the lens through which you see reality is it can be very foggy, or it can just be very, very like just a different lens, which obviously like the great artists, have this. But when one can be very, very good at the high abstract, there can maybe be issues with communication on a lower level, right? So, part of the key with this one is understanding where your weak spots are, and not allowing the low level, which is the escapism and kind of like self delusion, to take over. And yeah, so it's like really really being able to look at the self um in that correct way. So like I've seen with this, with the Mercury, with the moon, like yeah, just over analysis of thinking someone's saying something and they're not saying it that way, and like when it's with romantic energy, it could just be like yeah, like an obsessive potentially energy, an energy where there's just like too much thought, right? um there's just kind of this yeah. So and then like yeah, it could easily fall to that Superman, or not Superman, that kind of Disney movie, like wanting to save the partner, but really a lot of times it's um, really the self wanting to save the self. It's projection. So I've seen a lot too. It's like so when there isn't a clear sense of self, right? There can be a lot of insecurities, a lot of anxieties, and a lot of ways someone with this can lie to can deceive themselves, can lie to themselves, right? And a lot of times it can be very unconscious. So like a chart like this, like the grand, like in like with North Node Aquarius, it's the answer to the question is doing things for other people, healing other people. It's actually kind of similar to my chart in ways where it's like, having the same nodes in different placements, where it's like, okay, there's a lot of been there, done that in being that Leo star type energy. But what you need to do, especially your chart, like it's like what with the 12th house energies, they when you there's the magic, they're very karmic. So the magic that happens when you're helping someone else, you understand yourself better through understanding someone else's deep experiences. And having Moon conjunct Chiron could be, it gives great compassion. Yes, a lot of times, or not a lot of times, great pain felt early on, but yeah. So my assumption would be that perhaps um your family, you just never felt understood, you never felt heard. They didn't understand, like I said, they didn't understand your sensitivity and like what you needed. Maybe they weren't ready to be parents. But also, like with this, it could just be a big chain, a big intergenerational chain, where it's like reincarnating, 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 the same thing's happening. It's like, who's gonna stop it, right? So, yeah, I think like I've seen a lot of people who like it's very important, the sixth house, like your routine, like your physical, your mental, your emotional, your spiritual day-to-day routine, because like you're extremely psychic, but sometimes it can be misleading with this energy, because it's it's about learning to recognize the difference between imagination and intuition, right? And I think we can all think of times in our lives where that's happened, right? Where we've, what like what if our own insecurities or something that hasn't been dealt with, or just like a lot of mental chatter kind of comes in, or a lot of like being overly emotional situation. It could be the emotions taking over, as opposed to the need to quiet down the mind, quiet, to so yeah. But besides that, like I think that, yeah, I mean, the biggest thing is I've seen a lot of inferiority complexes with this, difficulty seeing the self correctly, and then just the need for boundaries, right? So like with self-love comes boundaries. And that's something that Capricorn is very good at, right? So this is another interesting thing on the chart, is that, like this aspect, like it's basically just the idea that in order, it's going to be very difficult to succeed, or to it's going to be very difficult to achieve your karmic goals if you're just letting everyone in. You have to be very, very sure, right? And sometimes it can be better to keep a smaller circle, but you have this 11th house Mars and Sag, which it's nice because it is a very jovial and friendly, and um there tends to be a lot of drive towards making friends. Yes, there can also be clashes with friends, but it's Sagittarius, right? So it's usually a more Jupiterian, fun-loving, expansive energy with friends and whatnot. Um, so that could be good. There could be some luck in that area of life, which would be very nice. But anyways, so when we talk about Moon opposite Mercury, especially Mercury conjunct Saturn, Mercury retrograde, that makes decision making very difficult, because it's like, do I follow what I'm thinking, my logic, or what I'm feeling, whether that's emotions or intuition, right? Your heart or your head. So there can be a lot of self doubt, and you know it's tough. And you add Saturn to the mix with the moon, conjunct the sun. It's just like a very, very prominent placement for people who have perfectionist tendencies with the sun. Who where nothing was ever good enough for the dad, and just never really seen the correct way. And sometimes they work their whole life to try to appease this one person, or just the family culture in general, right? But anyways, as I was saying, so Moon and Saturn is definitely up there with most challenging aspects because of what it typically brings, especially the 12th house involved, and how the sixth house, how much that leads to the feeling of the emotions, the cancer emotions, right? You know, it. can lead to a lot of loneliness and a lot of, wanting to kind of wanting to be alone and just yeah. So this can, and with Mercury and Saturn together, which is a great showing of intelligence, right? Great memory most of the time. But still, it can also be insecurity or shyness, and maybe like someone who's made to doubt their own intelligence. Maybe there was some type of speech impediment or something early on with respect to communication, or just the ideas that were um a little bit more deep, or kind of took some time to come out in the right way. But yeah, it can really make someone quite shy, and especially in Capricorn, it could be linked to a lot of depressive periods and stuck energy. So the biggest thing, with this is being able to talk about your emotions and being able to trust. Like, the worst way this whole chart can manifest is someone who holds its energy in, who tries to sort of like allow that Neptune, or who allows that Neptune energy to make them mold into this kind of being that they think society's wanting them to be, or that family, or whatever conditioning is wanting them to be, and they're just super far from their authentic self. So all the way back to that North Node, which is your highest karmic goal, it's to be in the first house. It's all about you being your authentic self and being able to be independent, being able to not need a relationship to define you. And yeah, working through trauma that could come from a lifetime you don't remember, unless you remember past life. So past life regressions, I mean, I'm not gonna say that everyone who, I've only I don't have enough experience in that domain, like, of having sessions to make any recommendations, but I do know people who've benefited from it a lot. Um, but yeah, I mean, the right person who's able to see into that realm could be very, very healing for you. Very, very healing. But yeah, so what happens a lot with this is that the person just feels so constrained and they feel so stuck in it, and then they can become very overly serious, right? And as we know, it takes, you know, we have to be able to feel like to have fun. We have to be able to, like, to be goofy, to be childish, right? That's what the fifth house Leo is about. It's childish, but it's creative, and it's also, sexual, fifth house. So, like, this energy could really block a lot of that. It doesn't, even if the person is extremely creative, they could have an energy that's blocking them from that. Now, if we look at the South Node in Leo, follow me here, when it comes to creativity, the key, it's not to not be creative, but it's to have it done in a way that's supporting you, supporting others in some way, you supporting the collective. So I'm going to talk about myself for a second, just because it's a very good example. So I have like a lot. I'm not going to go into it, but I have a lot of like natural talents in different things, right? Mostly like, creative. But I realized when I was like, I could have easily that could have easily been my greatest talent, right? And like, right, but whenever I would do it, I did it in more of a Leo manner, right? And even if I had undeniable talent, right? And I say had, like, because it's I don't really do it anymore, and I don't do it anymore. Um, but I never really tried. But anyone who knew me knew, like, that like I was extremely talented and creative with music, and that if I really, really, like, actually tried, or was able to get through that block, I could have been something, right? That doesn't matter. The whole point is that when you're moving in your south node, the universe will block you. So I like that's very Leo, right? Um, so now I'm still taking my creative talents, abilities, right? And I'm doing something astrology, which is ruled by Aquarius, because it's helping, ruled by Uranus, ruled by Aquarius, right? It's helping people. So, um, I hope that made sense, right? Like, the context where it's like, it's not that you can't be like really put yourself out there. Yes, you are supposed to use your South Node, that Leo energy, to get to the North Node, but really it's like, it's speaking about how past life conditioning has gotten in the way of your greatest potential to know yourself better. So yeah, like with that much 12th house, it's interesting. But anyways, back to what I was saying. So like people with this type of energy, if especially like when they didn't feel, loved or valued early on. And this one, like I said, I don't like to do the whole mother father thing, but a lot of times, yeah, it could be. Let's just say the early nurturing. There's this feeling of being criticized. Nothing was ever good enough. Very, very emotionally cold energy, right? And cancer needs that warmth. It needs that the hugs, the touch, the touching, like all of that, right? It really needs that family. It has the emotional need, especially early on, for a connected family. So for cancer placements, especially the moon, if there was a divorce, like it can feel like the world is over, right? It could be so much trauma. And then with the Neptune, with some of these aspects, there could be the defense mechanisms to push it away, right? And diminish it in your psyche. Like, no, I mean, yeah, it sucks, but like, yeah. So I'm not saying, I don't even know if they're divorced, but like I've talked to people who have aspects like this. Usually it's divorce, especially the square. But also I've talked to people where it's like a dry divorce. Like they're still together, although I feel like those are more of like clients. I think about more of like my Middle Eastern clients and clients from more like conservative countries. But I've seen it in different elements. But yeah. So um a lot, like there can be a lot of skipping of important developmental patterns. Now, like I said, you do have that nice 11th house, so maybe you like maybe there is a lot of good friend energy, right? Um, which would be very, very like a blessing. But yeah, so it goes back to that difficulty with sharing emotion and kind of that misunderstanding of people maybe thinking that you're an emotionally cold person and very distant or dull, um and kind of a lot of fears around letting yourself go, around letting yourself just be like putting yourself out there. um and yeah, like there's like I've seen people with these types of placements where there's been there like I mean, I've seen everything, right? I think that everything in astrology is a potential. So I've seen people who have, risen above these in a massive way. I've also seen how it's led to different psychopathology. Um, but like I said, post Saturn return, post 30, like Saturn gets better with age, especially when one works hard on themselves, which you getting a reading from me, I have to make the assumption that, that you have, and your Saturn return was not so long ago. So perhaps things have been, improving. Never perfect, but with that said, like I always want to go back to the fact that Jupiter is on your moon and ruling your 11th. So like to me, it's in your sixth. So it's like you could have a very good like felt like daily routine, which a lot of 12 housers like lose that, and they lose sight of their body, and they kind of are more in the ethereal. But you might really have this like emotional attachment to what you do on a day-to-day basis, and then that's connected to different alliances, different friendships, different causes that make you that can actually really help with something like that. So definitely we'll talk about that. Also, I want to just say this right now. Um, Before I forget, that the way I do these is I do the reading, and then with probably 90% of people, they add the current astrology to the follow-up. So the follow-up, you already have it. It's that hour long, session. You should take notes on everything I'm saying. Or not everything, well, as much as you want. The more the notes, the better, right? Because this is a puzzle that we're doing together. That I don't know your lived experience. This is all not a lot of astrologers. I mean, I don't know. Maybe they do, but I don't think that many do readings just blind like this, not knowing anything. But I don't care. The point is that we have to compare your lived experience with what I say, and then everything makes sense. But usually it's pretty on point, or very on point, a lot, for the feedback I get. But you never know because, like I said, like the chart isn't showing your free will. So I try to give the potentials, right? I try to give, what can happen on one potential, what can happen on the other. But anyways, so let me know if you'd be into that. The way I do it is that it's $350. So it becomes a 3 hour session. Um, but I know everyone has their own issues with finance, or everyone has isn't. I basically started trusting people and saying, you know, it's 350 is the price, but you can pay anywhere from 290 to 350. Just tell me. There's no judgment. I just want to be able to help people, and yeah. So let me know on Instagram. Um, I will see it, and I'm gonna write it down right now so I don't forget the price I said. But yeah, so just let me know about that. And I, unlike, like in that reading, I go over everything. So there's so much to current astrology, right? I'm not going to go into, the solar return. I spend a lot of time on that these days because I've been getting really into it. Progressions, transits, right? The house ingress of the outer planets. There's a lot. Perfection. I could go on and on for Daria, but it's how can you do it in a way that is digestible, where it's not too much for the person, right? Because I could just talk for forever. That's why I don't connect these two readings. This reading never changes. You can have this your whole life, never changes, right? So the other one, every year it's good to get it, but it's very, very good to get that postnatal reading. And yeah, it's a beautiful process because the follow up is an hour, and then it melds perfectly into, we're talking, we're live, we're all, we're like, I'm understanding your natal, and then boom, your natal's all locked in, and then it just makes, oh, look who came. Are we at the 40-minute mark? Because if she came again at the 40-minute mark, the cat is straight magical. Let's see. 56:45, but still. Esme, you're gonna help me? My baby who got a bath last night. You want to show the bath pictures, Esme? Hold on. So yeah, so let me know about that, and no pressure, obviously. But everyone that does it loves it. Um, here's Esme getting her first bath in so long last night. Look at that little face. She was a good girl. She's the only one that was good. Well, there's only two of them that got baths, but anyway, so I'm gonna do my famous thing in a second where I hold Esmond from the chart. This will be interesting. Let's see and she either she looks at something important. So Esmond, look at the chart, and it works every single time. It's crazy, unless she doesn't want to do it, where she just looks completely away. But lately she's been so on point, looking at the plan I'm supposed to talk about, um, and sometimes meowing at it and touching it with her paw. That's when you really know. But yeah. So anyways, where was I? So yeah, so back to the programming. So yeah, just like it's just frustrating, and that's why it does take a lot of work. But with Saturn, you get rewarded. So Saturn has been your teacher in this lifetime, but why would that be the case? It's the planet of karma. So it's like you need to overcome the fear of getting close to people in an authentic way. Because in past lives, like I said, there could have been more ego-based relationships, right? And sometimes South Node Leo people do have that tendency to like, I don't even know how to explain this. Like not like an elitist type thing, but sometimes it can sometimes, right? Like it can be like a too cool for school type thing. But it can also be very misunderstood. Like me, for example, I don't want last time I was talking about myself, um, where it's like, um, I just yeah, I just like don't answer people somehow a lot of times, not because I don't like them or I think I'm too cool. I just get overwhelmed. But then like there can be like a misunderstanding in that way too, where it's like, yeah, but because you don't have well, yeah. But yeah, you don't have Leo, so um and you have very like this accent you have is a very humble. You're very humble. Like I imagine you come off as a very humble person, someone that people can trust, right? But and a lot, I would guarantee that a lot of what I'm talking about is super internal, And I would not be surprised in the least bit if a lot of people, especially like, pre-Saturn return, if they were like people who know you, maybe not like who know you really well, but people who know you, if they were to hear this, if I'm, correct in what I'm saying, would be shocked. Or like, what the version, like they would be shocked, right? Because it's just a very, it's energies that are more internal and that are meant to be worked on internally, right? It's not something that, yeah. And of course, with people we're very close with, the goal is like, how can I open up? And what's the beautiful thing is that it can be so hard. Like I've heard people with aspects like this where it's like, yeah, it took me, I love this friend or partner, but it took me 3 years to actually open up to them. But, you know, it still is an amazing thing. And the better you get at it and overcoming barriers in that sense, but also keeping, like still understanding that like there's a defense mechanism part, but then there's the actual boundaries, right? So, that's why I think therapy and that kind of environment can be very, very good. But yeah. So let's do the special segment. A little yawn. Okay, Esme, you ready? You ready? Okay, let's move it closer. Okay, Esme, do the thing. Oh, I didn't look. I screwed up. I didn't look, and she moved her paw. I was looking at her paw, so it looked like she was gonna touch something. Esme, I screwed up. That was the first time I've ever screwed up. Oh my God. I know she looked at the left too. Okay, Esme, please, one more time. Okay, she was so smart, my cat. That was. I don't know what skill. I've gotten so good at looking at what Esme, like being able to track her eyes because I she was looking at Neptune, at the Neptune Mercury. Look at this. So she was looking. I couldn't tell. I was like, what? Which one she's looking at? But she was looking at. They're all so tight together, but I could tell she was looking at here and here, like kind of in the middle. So I haven't even talked about that. And that's crazy that she said that because that's the transit I'm going through right now. So I know all about that energy. Um, so basically, well, hold on. I mean, whenever I share, it messes up my screen for some reason. I have to restart. Okay. Yeah, so this is the thing though, is that Capricorn is also very much about caution, right? And especially, Saturn, some person is someone that like I always say like if I was trying to like hire someone, if I had like a big company and I want like a Sun conjunct Saturn person would be someone that would be like this, like it's the CEO energy, right? But like especially with Pluto on the MC, that could be like, yeah, like big entrepreneur energy, or it doesn't have to be entrepreneur, but just like someone who's doing something very important, right? But there is a lack of fire, which well, actually, no, you have Mars. Never mind. Take that back. When you have Mars and fire, even if that's your only fire, it doesn't matter. It makes up for all of it. But air, you've got Venus. So yeah, you're good on the elements actually. But yeah. So what I was gonna say before I move into what Esmond talked about, right, is Moon Uranus, right? Like to kind of complete this discussion, right? And of course, like I was saying with Sun, Moon, like I said before, it's like, the masculine, the feminine part of your personality very much at odds, right? Um, and just kind of like the emotions in the sense of self or the ego, if you want to call it that, being at odds, right? So that's I already talked about that, right? And it can, and oftentimes if the mother and father, were at war with each other, it can show itself as an internal battle, right? Where there's these two sides of the psyche, and often it's so hard to feed both mouths, they say, right? It's like how, like, the Capricorn, and Capricorn is very much about the Dharma. So your Dharma, what you're meant to do, I know I said that a lot. So like this is a very interesting chart because it's very internal, but then like everything manifests externally in the best, like when the work is done, right? So but like it could make someone like yourself come off, um like people might look at you and not, well, I guess with Capricorn, that they've been through shit, but they might really not understand the extent, like, especially if you have created a lot of success for yourself, however you define that. I define it as, what we're talking about here, the emotional stuff, because then the rest tends to follow. But yeah. Um, so like what can happen with oppositions too sometimes, especially here, is that they can create indecisiveness, right? But what can happen when someone's indecisive about something? Like it's kind of like fight or flight in a way, right? Where it's like you either action, or it's just like, so much like, the anxiety can create action, or it can create a lack of action, right? So with that said, it is a very powerful drive. Like it's like you wouldn't you having hard aspects like this, like you think like, oh, I don't want them. Yeah, you do. Because like, I mean, yes, this, like, because you have picked this karma, right? Like you have picked it to work on this karma, excuse me. And people like with charts like yours, these people are like the real healers, like the real people, not just healers. You can be whatever you want, but like it's like overcoming the difficulties and learning to work with it. Like, yes, there is a lot of potential for escapism too. I didn't really talk about that, right? Like drugs, alcohol, you have to watch out for those. Like with the, moon opposite Neptune in the sixth house. Um, but like a lot of the difficult emotional patterns, because they're in the sixth, they're things that can be worked on, right? They're like, even on like a health level, physical health, mental health, it's very connected. So there's a lot of psychosomatic energy. Um, so yeah. But anyway, Moon Uranus is interesting because that one can make the emotions very up and down, right? It can be very exciting, but it can be like when we think about like having that grounded energy in our own, in ourselves and our emotions. This can create a lot of emotional distance, and so yeah, it can really be like very back and forth. Now, Pluto, good thing it's not involved with this. Um, but yeah, it can make one, like I said, like as a Cancer moon, there can be a lot of pain, and I'm gonna say it again, in being, wanting these close relationships more than anything, but then, maybe coming off as, is more distant, right? But it goes like, so when we think about how this rules your North Node, right? Um, and this makes that a karmic uh aspect, right? So it's like the highest evolution of it is being able to like understand, as a sun opposite moon too, it's not to be like mom and it's not like to be like dad. It's about you blazing your own path, right? And also not to allow, like close one-on-one friendships and that karmic tendency to kind of rule where you go. But yeah, this one could be, it can just make one's emotions very erratic, and there could just be like just, yeah, just it can just be very up and down, right? So obviously when you have that Jupiter once again, which could be a game changer in this chart. I've seen it work magic in difficult charts. Um, like I said, it could be like there could be a battle going on, but you're still able to see it from the summit as opposed to being so in it, right? But it still takes, the whole idea of the chart with the moon is like, because the moon is unconscious too. It's each, with each conscious awareness, making the unconscious conscious. With each time you do that, you move forward. And so this is like a very, very intuitive placement. It's another one that's very very potentially, like to use the word psychic, but very intuitive, very tapped in. And the 12th house is the collective unconscious. So you're very tapped into that. But it's just like it's what's the metaphor I can use? It's like it's like a weather alert. It's like if there's a lot of rain, a lot of snow and wind, it's going to make the reception of the cables, right? Uranus more foggy, more difficult, right? It might knock off the reception of the TV from but if it's calm and if the mind is calm, if the person has found a way to ground themselves, because these hard aspects, a lot of times it's in our 20s or when we start working hard on ourselves that we move past them. And of course, the debate comes like, do we fully move past them or, I think that it depends person to person. I think that that we like when we start to really work on them and we really, really grow, we gain momentum. I do think a lot of hard aspects can come back though, like in a sense, right? But when we have awareness of them and we've gained weight, like, understanding and awareness of how to work with them, like they lose their power in a lot of ways, right? Or it's like they might, something that maybe had like a 98 or 100 out of 100 influence before, maybe now has like a 15 out of 100 influence, or just, there's a mini slip up that comes, and then you realize, oh, wait, this, and, so yeah. But yeah, with any moon Uranus, it's like understanding that my life is different, where I'm headed is different, how I see the world, how I feel, and also moon Uranus people, like, yeah, that's another one for potential divorce or just having to have, moved around a lot growing up. And like just people I've seen with that a lot, like where they maybe their residence, like a lot of people with moon Uranus, they change residence a lot. They feel comfortable with change. But then the same thing can come up in relationships, right? So it's really about a Cancer moon being able to ground. And that's like the name of this whole thing. It's like coming back to the Cancer moon, getting past the hard aspects. And they're almost like it's like there's a Cancer moon and there's like this thing you got to get past, and then this thing, and then this thing. And but then it makes you so much more grateful, and you're able to turn in the archetypes of all these planets into positives. Neptune, the psychic ability, the poet, the mystic, the compassionate, right? That super talent. Uranus, like the revolutionary, the scientist or the discoverer, science, the scientist, even, the person who's not afraid to be themselves and go towards that North Node in Aquarius, right? Road less traveled energy. Way more I could say. Um, but yeah, like the aim is to like really gain stability and control of your emotions and how you react in the moment, especially, right? Because the reactions, excuse me, can come from a very unconscious, hidden place. So also with the Neptune, it's like, like I said, being able to look at things in a way that are linked to reality. So yeah, but definitely with Moon Uranus, there can be like a very very impulsive kind of like boom, action, and it can lead to like lots of disagreements, and that can come from a very emotional place. So yeah, really, it's about not shutting down the emotions because that can be a thing that happens when there's a lot of pressure in this way. But yeah, just understanding that like your chart is not an easy one. That's why it took me so long to. And I do like to take. I've been, like I said, I've been very, very busy. Nearly every day I have like, yeah, every day pretty much like something I'm doing, um, which has made it hard to find the time. But I've had times to do your chart, but I've looked at it and said, no, not today. No, not today. Especially during the eclipse periods, like, intensity of the eclipse. But today I looked at it and I was like, yeah, let's go. So, astrology, psychology, like these are areas where a lot of these breakthroughs can come from. So you might be someone, I teach astrology. I maybe have, well, one person is supposed, she said she's gonna sign up starting November. So I would have like, yeah, like one more spot. Um if you're ever interested. I do only one-on-one teaching. Then I would close it off. I love doing it, but only for people who are very, very motivated. So if you're ever interested, it's very one of my favorite things to teach. But anyways, yeah, another thing is like, yeah, that need for constant excitement and just like how bored someone can get. And just like wanting to live that life that's you know, different, right? So, and very like also with a lot of elements in your chart, there's like it's very yeah, it's almost like yeah, there's just so much misunderstood energy. But like a lot of this energy is in the realms of helping people, the realms of getting deeper and having an outlet that's connected to the collective unconscious, right? These types of things, a creative outlet. These are the real healers. So yeah. What else can I say? Besides addiction for Neptune, also yeah, like I said, delusionality, just like or just seeing things the wrong way, disassociation with reality. But yeah, with Uranus and Saturn, with Uranus, I've seen a lot of. I'm just gonna be honest, a lot of mental illness with the moon. Um, Saturn, also a lot of depression. Neptune, there can be all kinds of different things. Uranus also anxiety, right? And because the moon's in the sixth house, like yeah, I mean this is definitely, but like a lot of what I see with the moon and Chiron and Jupiter, like I see you as a teacher. I see you as someone, especially Mercury rules your sixth, 10th rule, by Scorpio Pluto. Like it's like a teacher of the depth. It's like so a lot of charts I do for people who are meant to be deep healers, they have to go through these very big trials and tribulations in order to be able to Jupiter teach, Chiron, heal, moon all connected, right? Like being able to take your emotional experience and use that. It's like flipping the script, right? And then that has a massive effect. It's like when I'm teaching astrology, I'm learning about astrology, right? When I'm doing readings and talking to clients, it still has an effect on me. I'm learning about myself. I'm learning about the world, right? That's kind of what I'm talking about. So yeah, it's like the journey, not the destination type thing, right? Hey Mika. So yeah, it's just I just wonder about that whole theme of like attachment and disattachment and like I wouldn't be surprised if you have like an avoidant attachment style. Um and yeah, so it can be tough for oh, I have avoidant attachment. Uh Tough to trust, Um especially like with Cancer Moon, any early pain, it's like the crab that crawls back into the shell and is afraid to open up. Right. Yeah. When I said that, I said that so many times in my life. Um, but yeah, so it's like that can be the test. It's like how can I learn to trust again if there's been that hurt? Which I wouldn't be surprised because the descendant is connect Chiron's close to the descendant and then it's ruled by the moon, which is conjunct Chiron, so that could be relationships having like a very deep impact, a healing impact, but also an impact that shows you who you truly are as that heal you like a healing relationships even if they're not even if they're difficult ones. Hold on one quick second. One sec. uh I just realized what time it is. I need to see if this thing is open. I'm not going to do the order now. I'm just checking to see what time. 222. Okay, here we go. But yeah, it can just like also just like add to the just like the misunderstood energy. You know what I mean? Like the Uranus. But one thing too that I like about that is that then it becomes really obvious of like, okay, like these are my friends, these aren't my friends. Like this is what I want to do, this is what I don't want to do, right? Um, so, I think that you most likely have a very specific type when it comes to like well, I mean having like I was gonna say like friend, but I mean that more in the sense of like it's definitely like the mutable energy there in the 11th. Like yeah, like there can be like lots of especially the Aquarius North Node and all that. But at least like in terms of like the heart, in terms of like the morals and values, right? It's like very important. Um, okay, so no one has this. Okay, so what time are you closing? I think it's 11. It's 10 right now. No, no, no. Here we go. Okay. Information. Okay, till 11. Cool. All right. So, yeah, but like I said, like Uranus moon too, when you quiet, so when you quiet, like a big thing is another thing with the Uranus Saturn or Sun, the Saturn is that they're, yeah, so much self-criticism. That's what the Mercury retrograde also, it's like, so it's like really in this lifetime learning to like let things, learning to really like understand the effect that criticism has had on you. And seeing yourself as the hero archetype, right? The hero's journey, right? I mean, you came in with the hardest aspect for like I have it too. Like I said, Pluto square nodes, right? That's like the past life trauma, and to have Pluto on the midheaven, god damn. I mean, that must have it like that could have been like the theme of having had like a very public relationship where there was a um like let me think about this before I say it. Let me think about more. I mean, there's just I don't like to give like too specific of ideas, but like for example, like if Pluto it represents where we need to go in this life, but where we could have fear. That's amongst many things, like where we have to face our darkness. So yeah, 10,000 it could be. There's a mega power for you in your dharma in your career, but there could be with the square of the nodes a fear that might come from maybe your public reputation got messed up in a past life from someone that you loved or someone a relationship or just the archetypes of maybe not having been in your ideal self enough or your authentic self enough and how that may have done some things. But anyways, so with as I said with Mercury Neptune, I've seen that like there can be like you have to watch out for anything. It can make, like I said, like the high level communication and understanding very good, but then like the day-to-day stuff. So like there can be like lots of misunderstandings, lots of paranoia. Like I know someone very, very well who has this and she would just be wrong about stuff. Very smart, but she would just like certain things like she just would misinterpret it, and you're trying to explain it, they're like, no, 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 just not getting it, right? Um, and there can be like a difficulty also in like explaining like the logic, one's logic, um, and also like potentially like almost yeah, like I said, just a different lens through which you communicate and you see reality. Now there's a lot going on. So Mercury's with Saturn, is with yeah. So Mercury is the mind, right? So Mercury's also really difficultly aspected, right? You've got the same planets, right? You've got the conjunct. So, but this is like a brilliant, like Mercury conjunct Uranus. That's like a genius, like outside the box thinker, right? Um, Mercury Neptune. like what you got to watch out for there, and this is what Esme was saying, is the boundaries of your thoughts. Like it's just like this huge theme in your chart too, is like keep, be very sure about your circle, right? Um, there's like such an imaginative mind, but there can be like like you have to be very precise, aim to be very precise in your communication, which yeah, having the Capricorn does help that, right? But like the thoughts and ideas of other people, if you're not careful, they can seep into you, right? Into your head. So if you're around negative people, you should not be around negative people, right? Um, people's ideas, like it's just like if you think of your mind, it's like and it's such a beautiful thing because it's like that's that connection to the collective unconscious. But like having alone time is massive, right? Massive, massive, massive. And you have to be careful too because you can take on negative emotions and create self-limiting beliefs around them, whether it's from, moon, like the early nurturing. So really like we see how this all kind of plays together. Now, um when it comes to like yeah, like I said with the Mercury Saturn, like that's difficulty with expressing one's opinions. Usually they were criticized a lot, and it is someone like I said, very 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 strong intelligence, high level of intelligence. Um, and as adults, like they like with the Saturn Sun too, you grow into yourself and you become that responsible, reliable, stable voice of reason. Um so, but yeah, and also like because there's so many early setbacks that had to be overcome after this is a very important part. After the Saturn return, it's like before it's like you're moving forward, the universe push you back. Moving forward, the universe push you back. Moving forward, the universe push you back. Forward, back. So it's just like this constant thing. But then like Saturn, if you pass the test or after Saturn return, that stops messing with you like that. Things just get easier, and then you're still left with all that self discipline, that determination, all of these amazing elements, right? So yeah, but another thing, oh yeah, I remember one thing else about Moon Uranus is that some people thought they learn to not like they can intellectualize their emotions too much, and they can learn they can. And I already said this intuitively at the start, um, like thinking that their emotions are there's something wrong with their emotions, like their emotions are crazy, and that they shouldn't trust their emotions. And it could be from gaslighting from a parent or from parents or whatever, um, and a lot of times it can come from you know I don't, like I said, I don't like to say mother, but one parent or like or both where it was just very up and down, which is kind of like, anxious attachment. But um, I would not be confused at all if you were a psychologist, by the way. I just want to throw that out there. I've never even looked at your Instagram purpose. But yeah, like it's just that back and forth between intellect, emotions, and it all goes back to just the simplification of things, right? And the perfect balance of of feminine and masculine and inner and outer, and yeah, that's the constant theme. Being born on a full moon, the karma is very much about completion, but the energy is intense, right? So it's like, especially because it's mm, yeah, it's an applying aspect, right? Meaning that like the sun's here and the moon is here. So it's like it was 9 degree not you were born 9 degrees before, which is like less than a day before the full, you know, apex of the full moon. So a lot of times I'm sure you noticed full moons can be the most intense energetically like a day or 2 days before, right? So for yeah, so that's some intensity, but definitely gets easier to deal with age. And yeah, it'd be interesting to look at your current astrology, see where the progressed moon, progressed sun, and just the progressed chart is like. But anyways, yeah. So back to Mercury in the mind, right? There needs to be, there can be this connection, like I said, like there's this theme of like maybe being too connecting, maybe connecting the ego too much with the ideas and the thoughts. Actually, I didn't really bring that up, but um, yeah, I mean, just self-limiting beliefs with Saturn and it could be like sometimes I've seen that like it's so beautiful that there's Neptune and Uranus there because that's like very outside the box thinking. I would not be surprised at all. Like I said, I don't say this often if you were legitimately like psychic or like very high up on that scale. Um, but that maybe it took you a long time to really grow into that because of some of these difficult aspects. But another element I want to bring up is the ancestral element. Like you could have like a very deep connection to your ancestors, which I find interesting. You can get a lot of knowledge, from them. So, yeah. But anyways, really, um, also like really, really be careful of who you take advice from. Um, and with lying and anything like that, like gossiping, like just be careful, Esme, with these types of things, right? You know, yeah, don't push it in that way. And Esme, okay, come up here, Esme. So I've also seen with Mercury and Neptune like sensory issues, sensory deficit, where it's just like so much information coming in at once, right? Or like something like ADD, ADHD, whatever. Um, but like it's like being able to see what other people don't see. So I wouldn't be surprised at all if a lot of like the being misunderstood came from having this mind that's very tuned into like this other world that maybe like a more conservative family just didn't understand and perhaps like there's a point in time where you shut that down and then it just was like there's a lot of suffering when we shut ourselves away from our true selves, right? Our authentic selves. So yeah. Um yeah, it's really, really gifted, like I said, for psychic and anything, creative and just being able to like read body language and nonverbal cues, all that stuff is amazing. And yeah. And yeah, also so Chiron is doing a lot also. You have so many aspects in your chart. But yeah, there's this theme of like, yeah, like rejection, like being rejected, like when you express yourself or when you express yourself, even Mercury and Sun are opposing it. So it's like, when you express yourself authentically, it's like this feeling of being, rejected, which is so hard, right? And then it's difficult to feel like okay, I like if you're rejected by these people potentially, then it's like difficult to feel like okay, I can really be myself, right? Um, but then it's really also that wound is where all the empathy, all the understanding comes from, and so much strength, comes from this also. And then with Mercury, it's like I see that in so many healers where they're able to really really hear people and truly understand with unconditional love and acceptance of everyone, right? Like where they're coming from. Um, but yeah, like I would not be like so you have so it's very interesting. You have a lot of very I see this with a lot of clients. You have a lot of very genius placements, like genius, like very very intelligent placements. But it's a very different type of intelligence. So, but it's in Capricorn, so maybe you were able to do good in school and stuff like that. But like also maybe with the Neptune, there could have been it could have been difficult, and there could have been some frustrations depending, yeah, around that. That makes maybe made you like I said, which is so common with my clients, where the way society is makes them doubt their own intelligence when it's not like that at all. So Pluto is really really doing well here in your chart. It's making some nice aspects. So there is that ability to go through a lot of positive and the ability to transform yourself. And when you like, it's a very non-superficial, like beneath the surface type energy, especially connected to your Mercury. So it's like, but like, yeah, with the sun and the moon, it's like you're able to, when needed, go through these very powerful transformations that can feel like less painful and difficult than a lot of other people's. However, regardless, it's like um all of the transformations you go through, like people, the public, or however you want to say it, like the midheaven, people that don't know you, like they see it. Like if you're like if you're like doing social media stuff, for example, if you're like a business like on social media, um, like you would like people would really really notice this. It would have like the growth you have internally. It has like a massive impact on that. Um, let me see. Mhm. Yeah, so it's interesting too with Jupiter and Cancer. There is that urge to like look after the family and look after loved ones. People with that oftentimes want a large family too. But yeah, like I would not be like you have so much in your chart of a healer because it's like sixth house your Jupiter in Cancer. It's like someone who can like enhance and teach like with the moon there too, right? Like how to help people with their cancer emotions, right? So yeah, there is that's a really nice, beautiful part. So yeah, like back to relationships as I was saying, and then also you know, I would say too that like there's just this need to really, really like when I was talking about like the sense of humor, right? Um, there's just a need to at different times and this is like why like I was saying before like I think that the Sagittarius Mars is a lifesaver in this, and yes, Capricorn can be very very sarcastic and cold, and I think they can be really really funny, like not cold but like like dark humor or just like more more sarcastic humor, but yeah, it's interesting like a lot of those 12th house placements, how much like yeah just like how does one manage like how much time they spend alone versus so it's tricky. Also there can be the thing with Saturn 12 is like someone with that can feel lonely even when they're around other people, right? So but yeah, that's just like someone like there's so yeah there's definitely a lot of sensitivity, but there's also that need like with so many of these places to reconnect with yourself through in like in solitude, so like that can be difficult in a relationship with the way that they're sold to us today, right? um and giving yourself time with relationships, right? Like it's not about just jumping into things like so fast. Like, I mean, that's not your style, anyways. But imagine. But yeah, um, one thing with some of these placements too, with Cancer Moon with the hard aspects is the idea of the past. Like so especially with Saturn the 12th, like there can be this feeling of being stuck in the past and melancholy and um, you know, and just like a lot of times like people with this they can live in guilt, like not forgiving themselves. And because you have Neptune transiting the moon, like I said, I've told people this before, like it could be that you like what am I trying to say? Like that, yeah, that you took on something that wasn't yours. You have no idea how many clients I've had that told this and they like had this insane experience where like they realized like holy shit, like that like this anger, this pain, this and that, it's not mine, but it's my mom's or it's my it's in my family, but I'm like because of some type of loyalty, I'm hanging on to it, right? So yeah, what else? Saturn 12th also insomnia. I've seen that a lot, nightmares. Um, and a lot of times too, like so a lot of your spiritual gifts could have been like held back until post Saturn return. Um, and yeah, like just things I've said like a lot already, just like around the father figure and just kind of not being there typically. So yeah, it just carries a lot of weight, and yeah, I mean it's like it's a difficult chart, and people ask me like, okay, it's difficult chart. Does that mean it's bad karma? No, it doesn't mean it's bad karma. I mean, like it could, but it like I don't think of it at all that way. I think that we are at different phases in our evolution as souls, and different people decide to take on different amounts of karma. If anything, it'd probably be more indicative of advanced soul to take like a non-advanced soul probably wouldn't take on that much, right? But and with that said, I'm not saying you have the most difficult chart I've ever seen, right? There's still, like I've seen charts like yours that don't have that Sag Mars, right? Um, you know, and Cancer Moon is, dignity position. So it's like once the person gets past all these, they turn into superpowers. They all are assets. And it's like, oh, I have a Cancer Moon with the Neptune power, with the Uranus power, with the Saturn power, which could be like such a good mother, such a good someone in such a solid relationship, like also able to have fun, able to just like pull from like just so connected and tapped in and creative, right? Music could be something really beautiful for you too. But yeah, just because of like how so like I would think someone like you like maybe would like to live in a more I don't say like a isolated like a place like a big city, like the wrong big city could be really tough because like just taking in all that energy, right? But a lot of people also, yeah, it's like they take on jobs that and it's in Scorpio, midheaven, so it could be yeah, a job that does give some isolation or that where there is some isolation. Um, but yeah, like working on your own, that type of thing. And because Pluto's on the midheaven, I always think people of Pluto in midheaven, like I mean, I've seen a lot of like what I think Putin has that, like a lot of world changers having that, right? And yours is exact. Um, but yeah, like there's that detective psychologist energy, but that can be applied to so much. Scorpio can be like the best business person. It can be the person that just sees through the bullshit and knows who to hire, who to trust, who not trust, right? But yeah, really watching your mind. Meditation is a must. I never say that ever. Oh, very, very rare. A must for your chart. Um, because like just mindfulness slash meditation, however it is for you, being able to watch the mind and see the tendencies and like we can talk about this. You just have to remind me if it's something that maybe you're amazing at. I know this is the beauty of me knowing nothing, but yeah, there can just be like a lot of potentials in this chart for suppressing what bothers you and different emotions and um you know it can just feel very very hard, right, to find like where the pain comes from and um let's think. Mm. Yeah, I've seen people with this just benefit so much from psychotherapy. I mean, just with like so many of your placements. And um I've also seen people with Saturn 12 who like become like overly rational, like they just block that spiritual side of themselves like so much, but usually like I said, they become more open to spirituality like post return. But anyways, yeah, like with the 12th Saturn. Yeah, I mean, I've just seen a lot of mental health stuff with that, panic attacks and stuff, depression, people who just kind of like can, yeah, lock themselves in a box. So there's obviously a lot, and like I keep saying, the 12th house, it's through it's through service. Um, it's through service that these things are worked through, right? Like I have so many examples of people with a lot of 12 and their life, sometimes they like I've seen a lot of them have this like self-sabotage type pattern, and then they start doing things like going a more spiritual route. Like I can think of one person who started like working with a lot of like I guess Buddhists, like becoming almost going to India, like doing that whole, meditating a lot and like everything, like her whole energy changed. Like it was just a very, very massive change. So, Yeah. I think yeah, learning to own your own uniqueness is a massive part of this whole thing. And yeah, so overall, mm, mm, mm. like one of the beauties of having like the Mercury there too is that you're able to take information like information or just like energy, and you could be like a poet or just someone who's like able to translate this like ethereal energy into words, right? Into human words, and perhaps teach it, right? So it's definitely there's definitely something. And yeah. But yeah, in terms of like let's see this. You're from New Hampshire. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. Mm, yeah, I don't know. I've noticed also with like the Cancer Capricorn, I've noticed a lot of people with that. Like there is like a lot of karma. Like there's a lot of times they can be very patriotic to where they're from. Um, but then I'm seeing the ninth house ruler being in the 12th, which could indicate, yeah, like moving away, especially with Uranus opposite Moon. I wouldn't be shocked if you like live far away from where you're from. And yeah, so with love, I've already talked about some, but what we can say is that there's this mix of kind of like deep, compassionate, all in one, but then also a need, like I said before, I'll say it again, to have space to be your own person, to not lose sight of that. Um, but like in like a marriage partner, you would definitely need someone who is able to go these deep emotional places. Um, but also, with all that 12th house, like it's just so like communication is the most important thing. Someone who gets you, right? Where you don't have to go through all these weeds to like explain, no, no, like over explaining yourself. Like, no, they get you, they either get you or they don't, right? Um, and just letting things come to you in that respect, because the first house, with seventh house, the nodes in these houses, it's like it's very faded, like who you're, all that area of life. So, making sure you're not pushing too much there, because, you know, um, in my opinion, if you could be married already, right? But I'm saying that that's an area where, and like with the South House, seventh house South node, yeah, it could come very easily, but like it's like there could be patterns in relationships that one has to get past. But I don't know about about the work you've done, and yeah, let me see something. Mhm. Yeah, so then there's also a theme, yeah, like I said before, of pain in relationships, contra parallel of Venus and Chiron. So, that, like I already kind of pointed at that in a different way, but that's showing up again. Um, Mustang 50, oh wait, yeah. Um, mhm. Oh wait, I can actually see them here. Yeah, here we go. So, okay, I see. So let's see. But yeah, I can't stress enough. Like I was looking at Hulk Hogan's chart randomly. The there's WW wrestling like documentary. I watched a few episodes and I just like saw his chart and it was like the most Leo chart ever. But he had Sun rising, but it was also Pluto and Leo, Sun, and like I forget what else. But like a lot of people who just have that swagger. I don't know how to explain it. They just have this presence. Especially, I'm gonna say it. I don't give a shit. Like I think Capricorn rising is one of the most one like they're beautiful. They're one of the most beautiful rising signs, in my opinion. I mean, just usually they're like the jaw structure and like the fact that like they tend to look better a lot of times post Saturn return. I have a lot. I know a lot of models actually who I thought were Scorpio, which is interesting because like the midheaven is Scorpio, right? And I'm like guessing their sign. These people I've met in the past, like clients and people I met on Instagram, like talking to them, like guessing their sign, and I'm like always said Scorpio, and it's like been Capricorn or the rising. I mean, interesting. Okay, shoot. Let's see. Mm, mm, mm. Yeah, so just like a lot of the declinations, all that, it's agreeing with what I'm saying of like just the need to not give up and to not like there could be that theme of pushing, and especially the first 30 years being pulled back, right? With your actions as well, because you have Mars and Saturn. But it's in a parallel. So it's like there is that fusion of energy where you're able to really, like it's just so good for success. But then also, there's that need to not self-limit yourself in the sense of like if you do something like, and it doesn't work out, to not give up and really to like the potential for self-sabotage also exists, right? Like I've so all these things I've said. And then also like, with the identity, like making sure that that doesn't get um like it's just like you're such a sponge of energy, you're such a mystic, like I don't care, I'm saying it, that you have to guard that. And that's a big lesson for you is that in past lives, it all shows with the seventh house south node. There's been too much of an allowance of allowing this person or that person to this person and that person in. But yeah, so this is what's really interesting too, is Venus um is with the North Node parallel, but then the South Node is with Chiron. So like it's just speaking of karmic themes, like you're really meant to learn to love in this more like not unattached, but more like Aquarian way, like I described before. But like how past life, trauma in relationships can really kind of maybe lead to like a more you know, more anxiety, more issues that come up. Um, so yeah, let's see here, and then um, where'd it go? Where is it? So okay, an out of balance planet, it's basically when the declination goes above 23.5 degrees or below it. So your moon is like 26 plus degrees, so it's out of bounds. And basically what this means is that the moon has kind of it's gone out of the sight of the sun, the king, right? So it's almost like it can create very revolutionary, very, someone who, even though it has all these aspects, which is interesting, it can create sort of an unpredictable, more unusual type of person. Someone who makes their own rules, right? They do what they want. And yeah. And basically, I would say, yeah, kind of, it's kind of like an Aquarian type of vibe, honestly. But it can definitely make, yeah, so it can make people feel like outsiders, really want to do things against, how the society is telling them to do things. And yeah. And then also, so Uranus is also part of that. Um, and it's kind of like a similar idea, right? Is what I just said. Um, it's actually pretty rare. I haven't seen it that many times. So yeah, it just adds more of that unpredictable and kind of disruptive, trying to be different from society type energy. And there could be also like some sense of abandonment tied to it, um, which makes sense with the chart in some ways, right? But um, yeah, I think it's someone who isn't afraid to stand out from the crowd, who isn't afraid to kind of take their own path and be themselves, to be kind of, do unexpected things. And I think it goes along really well with your North Node, right? So it's like it's not being, and I would question, with the moon out of bounds, this is something we can talk about. Make sure you remind me of this. Like, it makes you think, okay, like, yes, all these oppositions are there, but because the moon's out of bounds, does does it make these oppositions weaker? Um, because the moon is more free. Definitely still all the opposition stands, but I think that my assumption, yeah, I haven't seen this, so we're gonna talk about it. But my assumption is that there is, and having Jupiter on the moon, yeah, there is this feeling of like of kind of not having to be, as time goes by, of course, so attached to these. So okay, let's look at this. Okay. So you have Bacchus on your sun, which is about like wine. It's the goddess of wine, which could be about, escapism, altered states, intoxication. So I'm just gonna, I haven't really worked with that one a lot, but um, it's interesting that it's there with all the things I've said. So maybe, yeah, maybe escapism is something. And what's this? 21, 17. Oh, and you have Power of Fortune conjunct Moon. I didn't even talk about that. So first of all, having Power of Fortune in the sixth house, in Cancer, the same as your Moon. I mean, it just shows that when you're headed in the highest energy of, and then just how, like when your self-esteem is strong, when you're feeling that Cancer Moon stability and groundedness, and when you're living in the highest energy of Cancer Moon, when your routines are in check, when your day-to-day life is very in sync with your emotions, and where your emotional well-being is good, that's when things are, when you're really in your flow state, right? um Having that deeper, connection with yourself, going deep within yourself, you know um and then also that connecting to relationships with other people. But with opposition in general, I didn't really say this, it's like a lot of times, because it's opposition, it is relationships and conversations with other that reveal so much of what is unconscious. So yeah, just like emotional peace. And then it's with your Chiron too. So it's like about healing, and about you as a healer, perhaps, right? So how you can nourish yourself and then also nourish other people, right? Even potentially cancer, raising a family, perhaps, right? So there's a lot of potential. And then what's this? Do you have Lust conjunct Jupiter? I have that too, but I haven't really seen how it works for males versus females. All I know is I made a video on it and I had like hundreds of comments that this asteroid, um, it can sometimes make people like very, it usually makes people very sexy, or like the experience of so many people, like usually like on the ascendant or with Venus or with Mars or the Sun. Um, but with Jupiter, I've seen it a few times, but not as many as the personal planets. But just the overall appearance of Jupiter, it can just make someone like, for lack of a better term, like look or appear, or their energy can feel way more, like very like kinky or just very sexual. And a lot of times they're not like that, right? Not like right, and then having the Scorpio, Pluto midheaven could give that appearance too. Not like in like a way of like being promiscuous. I'm not saying that, but it's yeah. So I've talked to so many girls. My ex, she had the same thing where it's like, it just makes them kind of look like they, um, I don't know, like look more like that, than they really are. Okay. Mhm. All right. How long did I go? 2 hours. Damn. Well, I hope it was worth the wait. This one felt really good. Not an easy chart. But thank you, thank you, thank you. So get back to me about the current astrology. We can do that soon. Um, wouldn't be next week. It would have to be. I'd have time the week after. And yeah, like just yeah, just let me know. Take your time. No pressure, any of that. I hope you enjoyed this. Felt really good. I love when I take a break, like from recorded readings. I've done a lot of live ones lately. I love when I take a break that first one back. It's like, anyways, thank you so much. I'll talk to you later. Ciao, ciao.